Well, hello and welcome to Conscious Choosing, our webinar. Thank you very much. Today's webinar is called Looking for the Common Thread, the Power of Curiosity. So we're going to talk about the common thread and curiosity and how to use curiosity like a tool rather than just, being curious all the time. Is just kind of like a regular way of being. My name is Martin Lopez. I'm an affiliate trainer with Conscious Choosing. And what Conscious Choosing is we're a company that has a workshop and a book, and we go around the world and we train companies and individuals how to deal with conflict and disconnection and how to transform that tension, that struggle that you have when you're in conflict, how to switch that in the moment and turn that into creativity and being connected and moving forward in what we call flow. And flow is, how do you describe flow? Flow is when we're hitting on all cylinders, when a football team is throwing, touchdowns, and when the baseball team is hitting home runs, and when the company is productive and people in the company are happy, and when a relationship is, when there's love that's being expressed and people are getting along and they're working through challenges. And why do we want to be in flow? Well, because things work, when we're in flow, it just works for us. Now, what do we teach? Is we teach a method, a simple method that when you find yourself in conflict or you're disengaged or your disagreements or you just find yourself stuck, how to get back into that flow state. And it's a simple process, and one way you can find out about how to do it is of course come to our webinars. Another way is read the book, and another way is bring Conscious Choosing for Flow to your company or attend one of our open enrollment programs that we have going around the United States. So I'm going to be your host, and I'll be hosting these webinars along with my mentor, my friend, and the creator of Conscious Choosing. His name is Hayden. And we're committed to these webinars, just bringing a lot of value and just teaching you and just really sharing and interacting with you. The time of the webinar is going to be anywhere from about 25 to about 35 minutes, depending on what we're talking about. So sometimes we go like 34, 35 minutes. Sometimes we end 25, 26, 27 minutes. That's what we're committed to, being around 30 minutes. Okay. So a real quick note, we are giving away this book. We are giving away at least one book a month, and how do we give them away? How do you register and get in the running to get a book? Well, just connect with us on Twitter, and you can connect with us on Twitter. C Choosing, that's our handle, and on Facebook, go to Conscious Choosing. So it's Facebook.com/Conscious Choosing. Connect with us, and then just type in hashtag Conscious Choosing Book, and you'll be automatically entered into a drawing. And you can hashtag it anywhere, and we'll look for them and we'll enter you in. Feel free to enter as many times as you want. And on the first webinar of the following month, we'll announce the winner and we'll send out a signed copy of Conscious Choosing for Flow. Okay. What else? So connect with us on Facebook and connect with us on Twitter. And as far as questions, if you have any questions, please post them during the webinar or anytime, either on Twitter or on Facebook, and we'll do our best to answer those questions at the end of the webinar or in the next webinar. So let's get to it. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about Hayden. Like I said, he's my mentor, he's my coach. He's the creator of Conscious Choosing. He is the CEO and what we call the chief visionary here at Conscious Choosing. He has over 40 years of experience owning, operating, and developing companies. He's been around for a while. His specialties are in corporate interventions, leadership development, communication, operational improvement. So he does a lot. He's really, he's very, very well rounded and very, very well versed in how to run a company effectively and how to deal with conflict. He has consulted with hundreds of companies and hundreds of individuals. When I owned a mortgage company, he was my coach and he was my consultant and helped me build a company and deal with all the different things that we deal with in a company. So I owe him a debt of gratitude, and now I'm working side by side with him. So it's exciting right now. He's worked with international law firms. He's worked with major insurance companies, hospitals. He's worked with huge construction companies, small companies as well. And he's even worked with the EPA, and NASA. That's my favorite. He's worked with NASA. So he has a wealth of experience, he has a wealth of knowledge, and he's brought that knowledge and experience into his book, Conscious Choosing for Flow, Transforming Conflict into Creativity. Hayden's philosophy is everything in our lives we create, promote, or allow. So please welcome Hayden to the show.
Hey, Martine, good seeing you.
You too. Good to see you. Hey, and when I was introducing you and introducing conscious choosing, I was talking about the concept of flow. And what I use is the analogy of a football team. Everybody, we're scoring touchdowns and we're stopping. The defense is hitting and the special teams, everybody's working together. Flow is that state that everybody wants to be in. How do you define flow?
In the book, the very first page on flow, we define flow as that dynamic, creative, forward-moving energy between people. Flow is when we run that internal conversation, hey, this works for me. We're in flow. I like this. This works, It's dynamic. It's forward-moving. It's working for us. So when we're in flow, people run the internal conversation, hey, this works for me.
That's great. So we know we're in flow because we're saying this works for me. This stuff is terrific. It's great. It's awesome. That kind of thing.
Excellent. Absolutely. And one of the things we're going to talk about today is finding the common thread. And if we think about, hey, this works for me, how do we know it works for me? Mm-hmm. How do we know internally? And if it works for me, I feel encouraged, I feel supported, so our feelings is a directional guide to let us know it works for me. If I'm feeling confused, grumpy, frustrated, and I have those feelings, that lets me know, hey, something's not working here.
Sure.
It's that internal guidance system that we'll be talking a little bit about today.
Terrific. Okay. Well, like you said, looking for the common thread is what we're talking about, and specifically the power of curiosity. So when we talk about the common thread, our search for the common thread, how did you find that common thread that we're talking about?
We go, what I like about conscious choosing for flow is we go down to what's at core to us as human beings. We can look at all of the interactions and we look at everything, but we go right down to the core to make sense of what's going on here and where can we make a change. So the common thread is what's common to all human beings. This goes back to psychology, to behavioralists, all the way back to Abraham Maslow. And Maslow created the hierarchy of needs. And basically it says all human beings all across the world all have this inner desire to survive. So survival is the very core basic need. And then we have this desire for safety. So Maslow's hierarchy goes survival, safety, belonging, love needs, the self-esteem, self-actualization. And we as human beings all over the world have those same needs going on. Maybe we speak different languages, but the needs are the same.
Now, how do we access, so we all have these needs, and how do we access each other's needs, this common need that we all have, or those common needs that we all have? How do we access those in our interactions?
We do it kind of unconsciously.
For the most part, yeah.
For the most part, we see someone's not acting right, and we go and we ask them what's happening, and for the most part, we do it unconsciously. And what our training in the book is how do we make it conscious? How do we connect to other people's needs consciously rather than unconsciously? So I think we'll be getting into some of that today, won't we?
Absolutely, I'd love to.
Yeah.
You and I talk. We may have an agenda, but we just move. We do what we do.
We just flow. We flow with each other, huh? Yeah.
We do. Throw these questions out. So when I'm thinking about the power of curiosity, and I'm thinking about this conscious choice that we have, how does curiosity tie into that? How would you define how curiosity ties into flow and into this choice that we have and this consciousness of bringing flow forward?
Great question. When we're curious, we're open to learning. We're curious about what's going on, and we ask questions. And if we want to learn, the best way to learn is to ask questions. So, if I think you're upset because a need of yours isn't met, I can go to you, Martine, and go, hey, Martine, what's up? What's bothering you? What has you concerned right now? And the more I ask you questions and get answers from you, we start getting into flow with each other because there's a transfer of information from you to me, and I'm asking questions, so I'm pulling information out, and we start creating flow by curiosity. Where most people, and especially executives, get into trouble is they love to tell. They're telling you, hey, you're not doing it right. You need to do something else, and you need to get better at this. And when we're telling, it's usually judgments, blaming, complaining about what's happening.
Sure.
And it doesn't feel very good. It's like, okay, I can listen to you, but I'm not really liking this conversation. But if we ask questions and we're curious, that tends to work for people because we're drawing information out and they get to share with us, and then a new level of collaboration begins to take place.
So when you're being judged and you're being pointed to and pushed by maybe an executive or a manager, a supervisor, somebody that you're in a relationship with, that doesn't work for me, versus the first verse you said.
It tends not to work for us because I don't know about you, but do you like to be judged?
No.
Yeah. Did you like people blame you? Yeah. I mean, does that feel very good? To blame you, complain about you? It doesn't for me either.
Yeah.
And so that judgment, complaint, or blame not only doesn't work for me, but as Marshall Rosenberg, who wrote the book Nonviolent Communication, and we take a lot of our material from him, he said a judgment, blame, or complaint is a tragic expression of an unmet need. And what he meant by it being tragic is, hey, if you're judging, blaming, or complaining, you're actually separating yourself from the very people that can help meet your need, but they won't be inclined to meet your need because that doesn't feel very good. So we're attempting to meet our need, but it doesn't work for the other people, so we're stymied in meeting our need. If we're curious, and we're curious what's going on, that tends to meet our need better than if we judge, complain, or blame others.
So if we're looking at Maslow's hierarchy and we're saying somebody has a need for, let's say, love and belonging, asking about that need, that particular need to somebody, that helps the connection and moves flow forward?
I would say so. This is the common thread. Our core needs and our feelings attached to them that drive everything we do. You're going to be showing one of the cartoons where people don't leave their feelings and needs at home. They take them with them wherever they go.
Yeah.
And you asked about this one need of belonging. And if someone's not interacting very well or that need isn't happening, we can go and say, what can we do to encourage you and to include you in our whatever we're doing to meet their need. I have a little example for you I'd like to share about a manager who calls herself a needs-based manager. And when I talked to her, she said, whenever something isn't working, I go to the team or I go to the individual and I go, what do we need here in order to make this work? So she gets right down to the core. She said she had a direct report that they were butting heads with each other. They weren't working well together. And she thought, I need to go to this person and tell them I do want to have a good relationship with you. And she went to her and said, I want to have a good relationship with you. What do you need from me in order for that to happen? Notice she didn't say, I want to have a good relationship with you. What you need to do is...
You need to stop butting heads with me, right?
Yeah. What do you need? What do you need from me in order for that to happen? And she thought in her head, oh gosh, she's going to want a raise. She's going to want a promotion. But that's not what the direct report said to her. What she said to her is, I'm in here every morning before you are, and you walk by my cubicle and you have yet to say hello to me. She goes, all that I want is for you to say hello to me. What was her need? Her need was for acknowledgement that she was there and maybe a little bit of gratitude for being in there and working so hard. I talked to that manager a couple months later, and I said, how's it going with your direct report? She goes, people are a little jealous now that we're getting along so well. She goes, and I make it a point every morning when I come in to say hello, and sometimes we talk, and our relationship has begun to blossom. So that need for belonging is being met that you talked about,
Yeah.
and the need for a better relationship has been addressed by acknowledging a need that wasn't met with a direct report. Acknowledgement and gratitude.
I remember when I took the course, when I took Conscious Choosing, the course with you, you had said something to the effect of that so many of the things that we look for are not necessarily the rewards we're looking for is money. We want money, we want to get paid for our job, but they're beyond money. They're more the personal things. And that's what you demonstrated in that story.
Good point. We make a distinction between needs, that's why we do things, and strategies, what we do to meet our needs. Money is a strategy. It's not a need. We have a need for survival, for financial solvency, and money is one way of dealing with it. There's lots of other ways if we just focus on the need first, lots of strategies to meet those needs. So,
I'd like to ask you a little bit about that.
Yeah.
That's an amazing thing to say, because I think so many people think that their need is for money, and you're saying that money is a strategy. Are you saying? Say a little bit more about that. How is money a strategy?
Okay, so I'll give you a personal example.
Okay.
When I moved to Austin, Texas in 1994, I started a advertising business, and it takes a while to get clients, and I had a need for survival. I needed to survive, and I didn't think as far as cash flow or making money. What I thought was, well, how can I get clients? I have a need for clients. How can I survive? How can I create safety and start connecting with other people? And so I went to possible clients and I said, tell you what, I'll advertise for you if so more about the barter system. So I did it with an apartment building, and they gave me a really beautiful apartment to live in, and it was one of the nicest apartments in Austin area. I had a need for food, so I went to restaurants. I advertised for them, and they gave me accounts that I could go in there and eat whenever I wanted to.
Wow.
I had a need for exercise, so I went to Gold's Gym, and I did advertising for them, and they gave me free memberships. I had a need for entertainment, so I wanted to skydive, and I joined a skydiving club, and I advertised for them, and all my jumps and all my equipment I didn't have to pay for. It was in trade for advertising and using their services. So by staying focused on, I have a need for survival, developing clients, I was able to create other strategies to meet those needs, and rather than just, I have to make money.
So okay.
Money came along later.
Sure.
But, I had a different strategy to make that happen.
So a dollar, like a physical dollar bill, is a strategy, and it's what that dollar bill gives you is how you strategize with that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. A dollar bill, we exchange it for other services. What if we could just exchange our services for other services and trade in that way? We don't need the dollar bills then.
That's terrific.
It's just trade.
Yeah. So I think you have to kind of separate yourself in order to really get this sometimes, because for me personally, that would be a hard thing for me just to separate. Let me separate myself from the money. Let me separate myself from the dollar bills. But once I do that, then I actually find myself in a more powerful place, because then I can go back and consciously choose the money separately, differently.
It opens up possibilities.
Absolutely.
If you separate needs from strategies and you focus on the needs first, then a whole lot more strategies become possible because you're focusing on the need. If I'm focusing on your need, that works for you because that's where empathy begins.
Mm.
I have a little empathy about what's going on with you because I'm focused on what is Martine trying to meet right now. Martine's trying to meet the need for a great recording and really interacting with me.
Yeah.
So now I can focus on, let's this interaction and the great recording because we're meeting each other's needs and hopefully the needs of others out there for learning this new skill set and awareness and topics of the book.
So you can have multiple needs at the same time, that you're, multiple common threads occurring at the same time. It's not just one.
Absolutely. I spoke at a conference a few months back, and there were 350 people in the audience, and I said, how many of you have a need for not only survive, but thrive? All the hands went up. I said, how many of you have a need for safety? Make sure it's safe, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritual. All the hands went up.
Sure.
How many of you have a need to belong, your love needs, your fans and family? How important is that for you? All the hands went up. How many of you have a need to build your self-esteem and to self-actualize? Use your best skills and competencies to do really good work, and all the hands went up. I said, take a look around. We all have the same needs, but we express them differently, and they're going on simultaneously in every one of us.
So you have 300 people in the audience, and you have 301 people in this room, and everybody has different needs going on, like you said, simultaneously, exactly at the same time.
Well, they all have similar needs: survival, safety, respect, all that. And we express them differently through our different strategies and personality styles and way that we operate and interact with other people. So we express them differently. The common thread is we all have the same needs.
Excellent. Well, the book Conscious Choosing for Flow: Transforming Conflict into Creativity. So what do you do to let's talk about conflict, because conflict is such a huge thing for people. Even though we deal with it every day, we don't really want it, but it does exist out there. When we're looking at the common thread of our needs and the power of curiosity, how do we then apply that to conflict?
Conflict is one of those things that can destroy relationships. If you look at divorces, irreconcilable differences, is they just don't know how to fight fair, or deal with their conflict. So conflict is the number one thing that stops results in organizations. And if you don't have a clear and concise way of how to deal with conflict,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the way you were brought up or taught in school or something, we usually aren't trained in how to deal with conflict, and conflict will stymie us from the very results we want to achieve. So how do you deal with conflict? First thing is you identify the elephant in the room, which is the need driving the conflict. So let's say I have a lot of examples for you. Let me give you one example.
Yeah.
Is in the training, we identify a need in a judgment, blame, or complaint, and I asked for some suggestions that we would dissect and be able to identify a need. And a guy raised his hand and he said, I'll tell you what, a lot of times I go home, my wife says to me, you never help with the housework. And I said, how do you respond? He said, I tell her she's at home, I'm at work, she can work on the housework, and she can take care of it, and she can do it however she wants to do it. I said, how does the rest of your evening go? He said, not very well.
Yeah, great
so
answer.
There's this conflict going on there, and he doesn't know how to deal with it. We kind of like disassociate from other people's needs because we're focused on our needs, but we're not focused on what their needs are. So we dissected it and said, it's kind of negative. You don't help. And what's the subject? Housework. And what is she asking for? Help. So what's her need? He said, I guess her need is for help and support.
Sure.
I said, if you're going to address it, how would you say it next time? He said, well, I guess I would say, sounds like you have a need for help and support around the housework. I said, what do you think she would do? He said, I think she would cry. I said, really? Yeah, because it's been going on a while, and she hasn't gotten the results. And I said, then what do you think you do? He said, we'd probably talk about it and put together a plan. I said, great. Next day, he came back to the second day of the training, and he said, you'll never guess what my wife said. And I said, what did you say? He said, it sounds like you need some help and support with the housework. I said, what did she do? He said, she cried.
Wow.
I said, then what'd you do? He said, then we talked about what that looked like and what support she wanted and what help and, things that I could do. And we put some agreements in place. I said, well, how'd the rest of your evening go? He said, very, very well, thank you. Well, when we have that ability to name the need that's driving the conflict, we have named the elephant in the room, and now we've turned the conflict into creativity because now we can talk about how to address that need that isn't being met. And that's where creativity takes place.
That's amazing. And it's a simple choice to do that. You are in the driver's seat. Do I want to choose to address the conflict in a way that moves us forward, that it works for me? Or do I want to choose to stay in the conflict and where it doesn't work for me? It doesn't work for the other person?
Absolutely. The very basic concept here is if we're going to turn conflict into creativity, it is absolutely necessary that we take people's feelings and needs seriously.
Yeah.
And what we mean by taking it seriously is we acknowledge it. Now it's serious. We've acknowledged it, and we address what's going on with them. So if someone's really angry, I can go, it sounds like you're pretty angry. And you go, yeah. Well, what are you angry about? And then we can get to the need and go, well, how would you like to approach this, and what would you like to do about it? It's a whole nother level of conversation rather than butting our heads with each other and being in conflict.
Yeah, like you shouldn't be angry about that. What's your problem? That kind of
thing.
Yeah.
Now we're not taking it seriously. That was a good one, Martine.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, let's discount them. You shouldn't do that. It's like, hey, this is what's going on with me. Take it seriously, will you?
Yeah, it seems like it's a one-sided, like maybe not even identifying your own needs and saying, hey, you don't need to do that and stuff. That would all be all about me.
Yep. Or you don't need to do that. They don't need to hear what they don't need to do. They need to be acknowledged for what's going on, and then let's address it.
Absolutely. That's amazing. That's amazing. So we're talking to Hayden. Hayden, he's the author of Conscious Choosing for Flow, Transforming Conflict into Creativity. And we have a couple questions that were on Facebook. And let me grab them. Oh, there they are right here. I actually wrote them down. Janice from Beverly Hills asks, if feelings are so important, why don't people just express them openly?
I don't know about you, but I know a lot of people that express their feelings openly, and it doesn't work, because they're exploding all over people, and they're angry, and it's like, wow, that didn't work. What we're talking about is let's express them in a different way. Let's use our feelings as a GPS to identify our needs, and then use those feelings to help meet our needs. Where most people express their needs is just expressing anger, frustration, throwing dishes, slamming doors. That's an expression, but it doesn't get any results, and it certainly doesn't work for the people around you. So we're talking about expressing our feelings in a way that not only works for others, but works for us because we're focused on meeting the need. And we've used our feelings as kind of a GPS that we use in cars to find out what our need is, and then use our feelings as gas to meet that need.
So the GPS would be locating where you want to be eventually in the interaction. Is that what you mean?
The GPS is identifying, okay, I'm angry. What am I being angry about? What is it? Someone broke an agreement. So rather than getting upset and emotional about them breaking an agreement, say, I'm a little angry because the agreement we had didn't happen, and I would like it to happen. So let's talk about recommitting to that agreement, or what needs to happen in order for it to be fulfilled the next time around. So we don't get angry. That's using it as a GPS.
Okay.
Someone said when I used the car terms GPS and gas, they said know where you're headed before you put your foot on the gas. You
Yeah.
know, where are you headed? I want to address them not meeting agreements with me, and so that's where I'm going to put my foot on the gas, is to have that conversation about recommitting to our agreements.
Wow. So knowing where you want to go and then applying the conscious or the power of curiosity, applying the common thread, applying the consciousness to get there.
Yeah.
Okay, terrific.
Yeah.
That's great. Great answer. Jennifer from Miami asks, she says, I'm curious, why is it so hard for people to shake off negative feelings? So first off, she used "I'm curious," so thanks for doing that, Jennifer.
Yeah, that's good. I'm curious. Okay, so now she's gathering information from us. She's pulling information out. There's some learning possibly that will happen here. Negative feelings, is something that we maintain in our mind, in our memories, and it relates back to a situation, and people have negative feelings about trusting someone. They go, I'll never trust them again. So part of dealing with these negative feelings is to understand what happened around not trusting this person. How do I build trust with this person if it's broken down? And it's a different commitment around, do I really want to get different results, or do I want to stay stuck in all the negative things that have happened? Learning has to take place, And for me, this has been one of the greatest learnings that I've written about, is creating flow with other people. If we're not in flow, how do you create flow with people that you haven't been in flow in the past? And, it takes two. But if you have the skill sets, you can probably be more successful than if you don't have the skill sets.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about conscious choosing as a company and what we do, and the different ways that people can, let's say, get connected with us and use our services, if you will. First off, there's something you call open enrollment, and we also have workshops. Let's talk about the workshops first, and then we'll talk about open enrollment. Please explain the workshops.
Okay, so most of the material in the book, we train in a 2-day course. The 2-day course is called Conscious Choosing for Flow, and there's emotional intelligence that we learn about. What's going on with our feelings. There's a lot of things we talk about and learn, and then on day 2 we apply it to a lot of our situations. So this course we bring into companies to help them with their communication and relating with people. Talked with someone with a technology company this morning, and they said, we are really focused on people, processes, and technology. I said, well, how much time you put in technology? He goes, most of our time's in technology. So how much time you spend on process? Well, processes help technology. I said, so how much time do you spend with people skills and learning how to interact with each other? He goes, we don't put any time into that.
That's right.
We haven't spent much time with that at all. We're just hoping they get along well. And when there's conflict, we're hoping they can. But I said, you don't have a definable way of dealing with it consistently each time to turn that conflict into creativity? He said, no. I said, well, you're missing out, and you could become much more effective if you had a consistent skill. There was an article in Vanity Fair magazine, June 2012, about the lost decade of Microsoft.
Yeah.
They went from $529 billion market share to $259 billion market share over the course of 10 years. They lost almost $300 billion in market share because of the conflict and not being able to address it. And the article goes on and talks about that. So they lost the race to several key technology devices out there because they weren't able to deal with the conflict.
Probably not even identify that there were conflicts, probably, right?
Oh, it was in there. A lot of it was in their system, and that they were creating and didn't even realize they were creating it.
Wow, that's
So,
amazing.
yeah.
So we know about the workshop, and we do have an open enrollment. The next open enrollment is in Austin, Texas, and you can go to the website. I'll show you right now on the website here where you can find the how to register and get involved with us. And there's an affiliate. People can become an affiliate, become a trainer, and a business advisor. Let's walk through that real quick.
Okay, the affiliates are people that have their own consulting business and have clients. So they can come be certified to train this material and bring it into a company and can work with their companies that they're already working with. And we support them in these skills and awareness, and we certify them as trainers and they can bring it in. And usually when they bring it into a company, then they do additional coaching. So it really amplifies their career and their cash flow because now they have a consistent, valuable product to go and work with their clients. We also certify certify trainers within a corporation. So if you don't want to bring someone in and pay my fees, we can certify your trainers for them to roll it out in your company, which is very cost effective for most companies.
That's terrific.
So that's the collaboration model. And business advisors that have clients that they would like to introduce us to, those are we call warm introductions, and then they can get a percentage of our fees if they choose to do that.
A lot of people that have taken the course, a lot of people that I talk to, they say, "Hey, I'd like to bring this to my company. Can you come talk to my boss, or can you talk to the CEO?" That's what we call the business advisors. So we have a newsletter that goes out twice a month. And to register for the newsletter, please go to our website, and there's a couple different places. Just newsletter, give us your name and your email address, and you'll be on our newsletter list, and we'll send you out our newsletter, and the newsletter will let you know when the next webinar is. Our webinars are the second Tuesday and the fourth. The second Thursday and the fourth Thursday of every month, and they're at the same time, 1 Pacific time. This is 4 Eastern time, right?
Yeah, 3 o'clock Central and 2 o'clock Mountain time.
Absolutely. And our next webinar in 2 weeks is going to be called Choosing Flow. Conflict and strained relationships are costly. And that was clearly demonstrated today by all the different stories you told, Hayden, that that conflict and strained relationships certainly are costly, and I think Microsoft certainly showed that.
Absolutely. And so we will talk next webinar about how to transform that conflict when it's happening, so those strained relationships don't have to stay that way. You can transform them and choose flow. And how do you create that flow with them? So that's what we'll talk about.
So if you have a strained relationship in a personal relationship, a business relationship, a relationship in your company, please come check out our next webinar, and we look forward to seeing you there. Hayden, as always, it's a pleasure. One more thing. Your book. You got to tell people about your book. Conscious Choosing for Flow, Transforming Conflict into Creativity. If you want a copy of the book, a signed copy of the book, you can go to the website, Conscious Choosing for Flow, and you'll give them a personal signed copy, right?
I'll sign it to them if you put their name in it. And if you don't want a signed copy or you want a Kindle, you can always order it from Amazon.
Terrific. Well, thank you very much, Hayden. I look forward to our next webinar in a couple weeks, and thank you very much.
Great talking to Martine. Thank you very much.
You bet. Take care, everybody. Thanks for stopping by.
Okay. Bye-bye.